Hello, my name is Al Perry, and it's about 90 degrees in the studio here, so bear with me. A little bit warm and humid here in the Midwest. At any rate, my name is Al Perry, and I'm here to demonstrate and show you, in conjunction with an article I'm doing for naturescapes.net magazine, I'm here to demonstrate how to make a panorama, both in the field and in the computer, to stitch it together and make prints, electronic files, and so forth. So in this module, I'm going to introduce a few concepts, show you some gear, and we'll get right up to the point where we begin to take the panorama. And just before we take the image, I'm going to show you something about parallax and optical centers and nodal points, the things you need to know, or those parts of those things you need to know in order to capture good images in the field to come back and stitch. Then we'll go through the stitching program, and then I'll have a summary and wrap up. So let's start with the gear and what the essentials that you need to make panoramas. Now, the first thing you need, starting from the ground up, is a solid tripod. And this tripod needs to be steady in the ground. Set it up so that it's firm, so that when you're making your rotations and you're fiddling around with the camera, that the tripod stays level throughout, because that's the key to making good panels. The essentials are a good tripod, a rotating head that can be made level, that is, it has a built-in bubble level, and a digital camera, in this case, fixed to the ball head in such a way that you can rotate and take your images with a certain amount of overlap. So the keys are tripod, rotating head, and you need a device to move the camera fore and aft to account for this concept called nodal point or optical center and parallax, to avoid parallax. We'll talk about that in the next module. But at any rate, the equipment you need is shown here. You notice I got a bubble level. That's an optional feature. This other sidearm and that is optional features that helps make large, high-resolution, precise panoramas in the field. Plus, I can make rows of three, like 3 rows and 4 columns, 12 total images, that sort of thing. But that's a little bit optional, but it helps, particularly with large telephoto lenses and heavy camera bodies, to have something that secures that camera to the tripod and still give you maneuverability to tilt your camera, rotate, and all that. So those are some of the gears. You notice I have a cable release that helps steady the camera. I use mirror lockup because a lot of the times I'm taking panos in the morning. I'm using 2 and 3 and 5 second exposures because I'm shooting the high f-stops to get great depth of field. And I'm using low ISOs to cut down on the noise. So cable release and mirror lockup helps create better quality images. Also, optional thing is to use one of these LED lights, because you're working in the morning. You want to see that the tripod's level, and you want to check your equipment, and you want to be able to read things and find things, so you go out early sometimes to get those early morning shots and get set up for the morning light. You may need an LED light, and I've operated 2 or 3 years on the same little AAA batteries here. I've got a Canon 1D series camera here with a 28-300. I'm using a wide zoom here. I usually use a 70-200 for my telephotos and a 35mm fixed focus camera, wide angle for my wide angles. That gives me a little higher quality images. This is a good range because I want to talk about the business of parallax and optical centers here coming up. So those are the basic equipment. So what we're talking about is getting a series of overlapping images, either vertically or horizontally, in such a way that those can be stitched and made into a high-resolution print. And that's the idea of panoramas. So let me stop there, and we'll go on to the next part, which is determining optical centers and parallax and how to avoid parallax such that we can get objects in the foreground and in the background to match up with each other for each successive shot. We generally start these panos, create a convention of going from left to right. We shoot left and move right. And what we do is look at the scene and say, okay, this is our first shot. And as we're taking that first shot, we visualize where our next shot is going to start at within that first shot, so we get that overlap. Wide angles, you can overlap up to 50%. And telephotos, I'd overlap 10, 15, 20% on telephotos. A little more critical to get overlap on wide angles than it is telephotos. Anyway, let me stop there, and we'll set up for the parallax and optical center demonstration. Thank you.